Yes, it's Ripon on your Money Matters show. Today we are going to be talking about serious things. And if you want to listen and if you want to tune in, do it on your Money Matters show on Betar Bangla. So what is it going to be? You'll find out in a bit. Yep, that's it. So the topic today is going to be fantastic, but I'm afraid it may not be as hunky-dory and crisp clean. We are, yes, Bangla folks and other folks, we are going to be talking about, embarrassingly enough, about will. Yes, will. If you are going to die, I'm afraid no one lives forever. And that's the reality of ourselves, is how do you give money to your loved ones? So the question is a will. Have you heard of a will? Do you know what will is all about? And how do you get it? And what options do you have when it comes to a will? So that's one thing you'll be learning on the first half of the show. And on the second half, you'll be learning about, and I've covered that before in my other shows, and it's about scam. You've got fraudsters, you've got scammers, you've got thieves, you've got burglars. Yes, we'll be learning about the modern forms of thieves, modern forms of burglars who are desperate to steal your money online and sometimes, let's not forget, offline as well. So we are going to be talking about ways to protect your money, and when you are being a victim or when you have been a victim, what can you do? So yeah, those are the things. Of course, we'll also have today, yes, I will be providing with tips. You know me, I love my tips. Tips is going to be on two things. One is, of course, as you know, fuel companies, gas companies, electricity companies, they are putting the price up. So the question for you is, what can you do? How can you protect yourself? So we are going to be talking about that for your benefit as one of two tips of this week. Yep, we are going to be talking about this. First tips of the week is going to be how to get the best energy deal in the market, because we know we've got 6 big companies. You know them, E.ON, EDF, and so many others who are desperate to basically exploit you. But the question is, how can you make most out of it and you get the best deal out of it? So, here are my tips. First, find out, yes, you better do your homework, by the way, how much gas and electricity you use per year in kilowatt hour. That's kWh from hour from your online account or annual statement. So find out how much kilowatt per hour you use on your online account or on your annual statement. And use the figures, not average, by the way. Average means, what I might use per month, per three months, per year. No. Use your exact figure, most accurate figure, to find out exactly how much kilowatts you use. That's one thing, is to find out when it comes to gas and electricity, the amount of kilowatts you use. And second, know the name of your tariffs so you can compare new prices with them, not an average. Don't forget, there is a difference between average, i.e. average per month you use, or average you use per 3 months. But in your case, name of your tariff. So in your case, would it be, standard tariff or variable tariff? Find out which tariff you use when it comes to your gas or electricity. So again, you need to find the best accurate estimate, really, to exactly make the benefit out of the best deal. That's the second thing. So let's move to our third one. You need to compare. in the market, as you know, there are dozens of fuel companies, gas companies, electricity companies. You need to find how to get the best deal based on your situation. The way you do that is to compare in the market when it comes to price. Because we, and that may include even me, is that when we are with a company, we really want to move. So by not moving, you find that you're kind of stuck with it and you're stuck with paying lots more. In tough times, you need to make decisions. Decisions require you comparing the market. So compare price comparison sites like Uswitch. And of course, you can see the best tariff available and make sure you opt to see the whole market. So in other words, not just simply one or two, but every single one, so you can then directly compare. Sometimes you might have to even contact your supplier, your energy supplier, to switch. So the question is, how do you do it? Some will allow it easily. Others might say you're going to have to contact your supplier to switch. That's third, is comparing your electricity and gas prices in relation to other providers. Fourth, decide if you want a fixed or variable tariff. Now, there is a saying that if you are on variable tariffs, the price goes up because of the rise in interest rate. So if Bank of England, for example, decides to increase the interest rate, the lenders might decide to increase interest rate as well. That means you find that supplier like gas or electricity company may decide to also increase its interest rate. So therefore, you will end up paying more money because of variation in the price due to interest rate, among other things such as supply and demand in the market. However, you may have to compare that with fixed rate, whereby when you bulk buy, you might find that because you're getting it at a time when rate is low, you are fixed for a specific period. So it is a risk that you take. But on average, the way things are going, price of fuel is going up. So in order for you to save, keep an eye for a fixed rate for some time to make sure you are getting a good deal. Fifth, consider exit fees. If you're likely to move home or want to switch before your fixed deal ends, you might be charged for it. On average, you might get charged £60. But of course, ask your provider to find whether the charge you are being affected by or you're not. Sixth, pay by monthly direct debit can be a cheaper one. I'm afraid you're going to have to decide. If you pay manually, let's say by going to your local post office, or you want paper bills, printing papers costs money. If you pay it online, monthly, direct debit, and suppliers are happy, you definitely will get a better service and no doubt cheaper service. Now, remember, find how much you're using is first one. Second, name of your tariff so you can compare. Third, go and compare the market to find the cheapest deal. Fourth, decide if you want a fixed or variable tariff. Consider exit fees. Again, you save money. And of course, sixth, pay it monthly and online. You will notice that you will definitely be saving lots of money. So this is my one of two tips of the week. Yep, we will be going back to our tips. But of course, as I promised you, we are going to be talking about serious things. We are going to be talking about what we rarely talk about in our lifetime. No one prepares to die. And death is not something that we take lightly. People may even worry about it. They may even think about it. But the way I look at it, if you prepare, you find that you may not be leaving your loved ones behind. Your children are still living. Your wife you need to think about. And of course, your cousins that you adore. Or you might even like your favorite cat. All those things you need to think about. But the question is, how do you think about it in terms of money-wise? If you've got a house, what do you do? If you got a car, who do you want to leave it to? Do you want the state to take over? Do you want your family to fight among yourselves? Or do you want to lay the law down? Now, my argument is, if you want no fighting and bickering among your children, if you don't want your kids to kill themselves or your cousins to come with his or her knives, what do? You prepare. The question is, how do you prepare? This is where a will comes in. See the will as a way, your willpower. The person who's alive, the person who's thinking, okay, I want my will to take over when I die, and therefore I decide who gets what rather than someone else. So a will is really to tell everyone what should happen to your money, to your possessions and property exactly when you die. If you don't leave a will, though, the law decides how your estate is passed on. And this might not be in line with your wishes. So it really is about your wishes. So the question is, for you and for me, why you need a will. Yes, a will. I know you may think it's expensive, but we'll talk about cost later. But now it's all about looking at principles. First, a will makes it much easier for your family or friends to sort everything out when you die. Without a will, the process can be more time-consuming and no doubt stressful. Second, if you don't write a will, everything you own will be shared out in a standard way, defined by law, which isn't always what you might want. Third, a will can help reduce the amount of inheritance tax that might be payable on the value of the property and money you leave behind, because capital, assets, no doubt, get taxed. Anyone who receives it has to pay inheritance tax. So, of course, having a will prevents you from paying a huge lump of inheritance tax. Fourth, writing a will is especially important if you have children or other family who depend on you financially. Or if you want to leave something to people outside your immediate family, you can do that because it is your life and your will and your wishes. Now, your wishes and who carries it out though. So in other words, who is going to do it? Doing in the context of will is called executor. Who is going to execute your wishes? So you need to tell tell people two most important things. Who should have your money, property, possession when you die? Of course, let's not be honest about it. It is about when you die. And also, who will be in charge of organizing your estate and following the instruction you leave in your will. This person is called your executor. So that person will execute your wishes. You can name more than one person if you want to. You can, no doubt, use your will to tell people about any other wishes you have, like instructions for for you to be buried and where for you to be buried. If you want to be buried in Bangladesh or India or wherever it might be, you say it. If you want to be buried in, let's say, in UK, you can say that. If there is no instructions, you might find that your relatives might have to decide for you. So your executor, though, will do their best to make sure your wishes are followed as long as they don't involve breaking the law, because law will always preside. It might not always be possible for executors to carry out your instructions simply because it's not practical to do so. But let me give you an example. A person who don't want to leave something to die before you do, if you have a will, there's a better chance of things happening the way you want to. So in other words, if someone, for example, dies after you, it's better because then you don't have to worry about it because that person can do it. So what are the criteria? So we looked at why you should do it, but what are the criteria for you making a will? This will doesn't have to be on specific paper or use of a legal language. It can be a document, really, a will, as long as it says how your estate should be shared when you die. Was made when you were able to make your own decisions and you weren't put under pressure about who to leave things. And another word, also, you haven't lost your mind. No one tainted your mental. You should have a clear mind when you write it, because otherwise they might say someone pressurized you, or I suppose, or you weren't ready for it. Like if you suffer from Alzheimer's, dementia, obviously that will have an impact on you. So you need to be wary about that. So how you do it and the mind that you have might also impact whether the will is valid or not. And of course, it needs to be signed and dated by you in the presence of two adults, independent witnesses. Then sign, and then they themselves have to sign in your presence. And the witnesses, though, can't be who are going to inherit anything from you. So in other words, although they themselves are signing the will, they cannot be the beneficiary. They can't benefit from it. They can only be your executor. So do bear in mind. Then the question is, how do you start making a will? Okay. If your family is small and you want to leave everything to them, making a will is fairly straightforward. If your situation is, however, is complicated, let's say you've got children, so many children, and you've got a huge house, then of course things might be different. And then you need to plan things carefully. Either way, if you just leave it and don't do nothing, you may find that things will be quite complicated later. So make sure that what you leave behind will go to the people you intended on doing. So first is what you do is make a plan. Yes, plan. That's what you have to do. Second is, of course, now get your will written. Now that means what? There are a number of ways you can get a will written. The best option, though, depends on how complicated your situation is. Now, first is, of course, is a simple will. If it's a simple will, it costs about no more than 144 to 240. If it's a complex one, let's say you got a huge house, huge car, and a wife who really wants lots of things, and also children, and you've got a restaurant, and you've got other things, let's say in India and Pakistan, and you feel as though, okay, what do I do with those properties? Then it gets complicated. It may then mean that the price goes up. It may cost more than 150 to 300. However, if there's divorce, it may cause problems too. So again, the complex it gets, you need to think about getting advice from a solicitor. So yes, and the cost of course, solicitors, as you may know, it can be slightly higher, but it's worth paying the price for long term anyway. But you might be able to get a template document as little as £10 online. So you just have to do a bit of research online. So that's kind of, in a sense, what will is all about. But of course, I think you do need to know what happens if you don't leave a will. Yes, we've talked about you having a will. What happens when you don't leave a will? Yes. When you die without leaving a will, the law decides how much and what should someone get. Usually, intestacy rule applies. So you might say, what is intestacy? It's when someone is dying without a will is called intestacy. Therefore, national legislation applies. And the rule says that if you're not married and not a civil partnership, your partner is not legally entitled to when you die. So obviously, if you're not married is one thing, but if you are married, your husband, your wife might inherit most or all of your estate, and your children might not get anything, except, of course, if you live in Scotland. This is true even if you're separated, but not if you're divorced. So separation is one thing, divorce is something else. If you're not divorced, then obviously you're still married, and therefore you're entitled to all the goods and stuff. But if your children and grandchildren, how much you get is not dependent by the will, but again by the law. an inheritance tax that your estate has to pay might be higher than it would be if you had made a will. So in other words, inheritance tax is much more expensive. So do a will instead. If you die with no living close relatives, your whole estate will belong to the Queen or to the government. This is called bona vacantia. Okay, so there we are. So who will inherit if you die without a will? You can find out exactly who will inherit by by going online, really. So you've got this government online calculator. It's called in the rules for England and Wales, Scotland and Ireland for dying without a will. That will give you the data as to who will get it. But of course, calculator use that. So basically, there's a calculator there, and it will check for you, and it will give you a quick guide. It will look at who you have, grandchildren, children. It will look at in a sense of any branches. So you look at the whole history of your family, and also look at any things you have, furniture, cars, books, houses, and then from then on, it will decide. But you can actually write your own will if you really are interested. There is a site on moneyadviceservice.org.uk, and then look at writing a will and your options. But okay, since we are moved on to your options, let's explore that in a sense of how you're going about getting that option sorted. Just hold on a sec for me. Yeah. So first is first. You might have to think about getting your solicitor to write it for you. Yeah. That's one option, I suppose. But before we go to that, let's explore all the options. Yes, we talked about one. To get a valid will, there are three options. One is a solicitor. Another is using a will writing service. And third is to do it by yourself. So those are the three options. But now, let's explore first your solicitor. Solicitors are experts, as we all know. They should write you a watertight will that does exactly what you want to. In other words, they will basically make it personal to you. That's what they do. And they will consider your inheritance tax. They will consider your family situation. They will also protect someone's interest that you've thought about, family members who are disabled, for example. They will also, they'll be very, very personal to you. Of course, we know that the cost is higher, but at least it's exactly for you. Second is, of course, using our writing service. Yes, again, they're not as, I'm afraid, although it is a company or organization, then they're not necessarily legally qualified. That's the problem. And will writing service might not have been traded as long as many solicitors firms. So therefore, they're not regulated. So that's the problem that you might have. Yes, it might be cheaper, but they're not regulated. But yeah, second option is using a will writing service. Now, in terms of writing your own will, of course, is the cheapest, but at the same time, it is the most riskiest to write by yourself. And there are a number of online write your own will that you could find actually. It's only suitable for people whose will is very simple, i.e. it's not very complicated and it's easy, and it's only one person the whole thing is going to. It shouldn't be very difficult. It makes it much more simple. The template should show that you need to do what you need to do to make sure it is signed, dated, and witnessed properly. So you still need to sign it, you still need to date it, you still need to be witnessed in order for it to be willed. So that's kind of what you have from me right now. But of course, after the break, we will talk about scams. We'll also talk about tips on insurance again. Hey, there we go. It's all about money. I don't talk about anything but money or how to obtain money or look for cheaper options and deals for money. So watch this space and I'll be back in a second.
রংপুরে 175 সিটের অভিজাত রেস্টুরেন্ট লিজেন্ড ইভেন্টস বার্থডে পার্টি